All right, today we're cracking open one of the most fundamental, yet kind of overlooked secrets in all of AI. And it's all about the starting point. It's this silent, invisible factor that can decide right from the get-go whether an AI model is going to be a genius or a total dud. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had two AI models that are, completely identical? Same data, same architecture, everything. And one of them just gets it? It trains beautifully. The other one? It just stumbles around, learns absolutely nothing, and completely fails. The secret, more often than not, is all about where they began on the starting line. And that starting point, that secret starting line for literally every neural network, is a process we call weight initialization. And believe me, getting this right, well, it's everything. Think about it like this. Training a neural network is like trying to solve a super complex maze. The weights, those are the directions for the path you take. So weight initialization is basically deciding where in that maze you're going to start. A good starting point might put you right near the exit, a quick path to the solution. But a bad one? Oh, a bad one can get you trapped in a dead end, going in circles forever. And when I say a bad start is bad, I mean it is catastrophic. Getting this wrong can lead to one of three major meltdowns. First, the learning signal can just fade away into nothing. That's called a vanishing gradient. Or it can get so huge that the whole model just blows up, an exploding gradient. Or you can hit this really weird and surprisingly common issue called the symmetry problem. So how do we get ourselves into this mess? Well, it turns out that the most obvious, most intuitive starting points, the ones that seem so simple and logical, are usually the absolute worst choices you can make. Let's dig into why these easy ideas just totally fail. Your first instinct, right, is probably, hey, let's just start everything at 0, nice and clean. Or maybe let's set every weight to 0.5. The problem is, both of these very logical ideas lead to the exact same failure: perfect symmetry. See, if every neuron starts with the exact same weight, it's going to process the input the same way, get the same error signal back, and update itself in the exact same way. They literally become perfect clones of each other. And that right there is the core issue. I mean, the whole point of having a million neurons is for them to specialize, right? For one to learn to spot edges, another to see curves, another textures. If they're all identical, they can never, ever specialize. You've basically built a giant network that has the brain power of a single neuron. It's just a massive waste. Now, check out this analogy. It's just fantastic. Imagine you have a pendulum, and you balance it perfectly, straight up and down in a perfect world with no vibrations. Now, you let go. What happens? Nothing. It's stuck. It has the exact same reason to fall left as it does to fall right, so it can't make a choice. It's paralyzed by its own symmetry. That's exactly what's happening to your neurons. They're stuck at the starting line, totally unable to break that tie and learn anything useful. Okay, so the next logical step is to just use small random numbers to break that symmetry. And that kind of works for a bit. But in really deep networks, it creates this new sneaky problem. As the learning signal travels from layer to layer, each set of these tiny random weights just chips away at its strength, until deep inside the network, the signal is basically gone. It's a whisper in a hurricane. The network literally can't hear what it's supposed to be learning anymore. For years, this was a massive roadblock, especially as networks got deeper and deeper. But then a breakthrough came along that was all about finding the perfect balance, a way to keep that learning signal strong and clear. So back in 2010, two researchers, Xavier Gloro and Yoshua Bengio, they tackled this problem head-on. They figured out that the issue wasn't just about breaking symmetry, it was about preserving the signal's strength as it flowed through the network. Their solution, which we now call Xavier or Gloro initialization, totally changed the game. The key idea is just so elegant. Xavier initialization sets the weights within a very specific, carefully calculated range. And this range is designed to make sure the variance, which you can kind of think of as the signal's energy or strength, stays roughly the same from one layer to the next. This keeps the signal in a perfect Goldilocks zone. Not too big, not too small, just right. So what's the crucial insight here? Xavier looks at both the number of neurons feeding into a layer and the number of neurons it feeds out to. It uses both of those to find this perfect balance point. And for the kinds of activation functions people were using at the time, these things called sigmoid and tanh, it worked like a charm. For a while, it was the undisputed king of initialization. But you know how it is in the world of AI? Things change fast. A new piece of tech came along that was way faster and more powerful, and it completely shattered Xavier's careful balance. It was time for a new hero to step up.
And that plot twist was the rectified linear unit, or as everyone calls it, ReLU. ReLU quickly became the new go-to activation function. It's super simple, and it actually helped with the vanishing gradient problem in its own way. But it had this one weird characteristic that threw a giant wrench in the works for initialization. And this is the next piece of our puzzle, right? Xavier's method was so brilliant, designed to perfectly maintain that signal strength. So why on earth would this new, supposedly better activation function completely break it? What was so different about ReLU?
Well, the answer is in how ReLU works. It's dead simple. If an input is positive, it lets it pass right through. But if it's negative, it just outputs 0. That's it. This means, on average, ReLU is killing off or zeroing out about half of the signals passing through it. Xavier's math was all built on the idea that the signal was nicely centered around 0, which ReLU is definitely not. That one little change completely broke the calculation. So how do you fix that? Well, in 2015, Kai-Ming He and his colleagues came up with this really elegant solution made specifically for ReLU. It's called, you guessed it, He initialization. And it just tweaked the formula. Instead of trying to balance both inputs and outputs, it focuses only on the number of input neurons. The mathematical insight here is just genius. Basically, since ReLU is killing about half the information that goes through it, He initialization says, okay, no problem. It just doubles the variance, it doubles that signal strength of the initial weights to make up for that loss. It pumps up the signal just enough to counteract ReLU's zeroing out effect, which lets information flow properly through even the deepest modern networks. So after all that, after this whole journey through the history of AI's starting line, what's the actual takeaway for you? Let's cut through the theory and put together a simple playbook you can use right now. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Here it is. It's this simple. This is the one thing you really need to remember. If you're using older activation functions, like sigmoid or tan, stick with the classic Xavier initialization. But if you're building a modern network with what's standard today, which is ReLU or one of its cousins, you absolutely positively should be using He initialization. That's the rule of thumb.
And you know what the best part is? You don't have to do any of this math yourself. Every major deep learning framework like PyTorch or TensorFlow has these powerhouse strategies built right in. In fact, a lot of the time, they're the default setting now. It's usually just a single line of code to make sure your model has the right starting line to succeed. So we've seen that something as seemingly simple as how you pick the first random numbers for a network can be the difference between incredible success and total failure. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the starting line holds this much power, what other fundamental secrets are hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be discovered, that could unlock the next huge leap in artificial intelligence? Let that one sink in.